Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Hello, hello, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Andrew. Some of you may know me as Mr. McDeggins, and I will be doing this screen share today. Let's get ready to rock and roll. D-Mac, I'm sending it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. This is David McKay with Andrew McDeggins for our next episode, Meet the Moderators. So, Mr. McDeggins today is going to take you through what he looks at in the morning, how he preps for the day using the tools on BlackBox. He's checking out the news, the pre-market scanner, various things. So he's prepared for the opening bell. And I'm going to let him take it from here so he can start telling you guys what he's looking at this morning. So what looks interesting, Mr. McDeggins?
Well, I always start by checking out the pre-market scanner, and not only that, but I look at, this is on the low float side of things, the pre-market scanner. I like to take a look at the top gainers of the day. It looks like this OBLN is our leader for the day on the low float side of things. When I am looking on the macro level, I generally start out getting a good look at the ES to, and I actually do this the night before also. I'll get a good look at the ES to ascertain what the market conditions are going to be in general for the day. Today, the ES is down 12.25. And basically, I'll take that information into consideration when I am deciding what direction I feel like the big blue chippers are going to move for the day. So it looks like since we're down 12 points, we could range either way, in my opinion, because that's really not too big of a swing either way.
Andrew, Mr. McDeggins, real quick. So am I looking at your screen, or are we looking at the correct screen? Just checking.
I have to take the screen from you. So is it okay if I do that?
Yeah,
right.
Please. I'm gonna let you drive. Show us what you got.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
Awesome.
All right. So this will make a little bit more sense. We give them a little bit of a visual to go off of, so everybody understands what you're looking at as you're explaining.
All right, great. So this is generally what my chart setup is, just like the one if you joined me on the boot camp. This is generally what it looks like, and I'm just, I check out the ES in the morning. Like I said, the ES is down about 12.5 right now. So to me, I would always, in the morning, I generally watch the same things. I generally am watching Amazon, and I'm generally watching the other movers for the week. This week we had Tesla doing, giving us some range. Just like I say on the bootcamp webinar, I'm never trying to predict what the market is going to do. I'm generally just trying to watch market conditions in general and follow the range that I'm being given. This OBLN. Now, if I see that there's something with a major movement, I'll just click this news button that we have, which is an awesome feature that BlackBox offers us. And I'll zoom in on the news. This OBLN was a mover yesterday after pre-market closing. I'm on the options side right now, so let me get on over to the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and yeah. So I'll take a look at what's moving pre-market. And if I see something with some decent movement to it, I'll pull up the news. And I love that we have that feature here that we can just zoom right in, see what's going on, and really be ahead of everything. When you can be ahead of the news, you can really be ahead of the market. And I love that BlackBoxStocks allows us to be ahead of the news. In my Thinkorswim panel, I have, the news is provided for me in real time right here on my watch list. So if something drops, I can always stay ahead of it as well. So generally in the pre-market, I'm just keeping an eye out for what's moving around. And in all honesty, I do most of my prep the night before, just trying to stay ahead of market movements in general.
So what are you looking for? Are you looking at different news sources, different sites?
In all honesty, I mean, BlackBox really does provide us an all-in-one suite of tools that we can use as traders to get a better edge in terms of probability of price movement. I have a real strong inclination that that we're going to have some decent range to play here today, maybe on Amazon. And in the morning, what I like to look for, and this is something I generally stays with me in my routine. What I'll generally look for is I'll watch for Amazon on this 5-minute chart here. And if I see a nice RSI break of 30 to the downside, that first RSI break of the day is one that I will pay very, very close attention to on Amazon. So all morning long, and I have another couple of screens, but the problem is that my other two screens are a part of, they're each individual computers. So if this computer for any reason crashes, thank you very much, Windows, my other computers are always up and running in the background to help me, just in case I need to make a quick jump. But I also have other information up on my other screens. So I'll have Amazon and Tesla on these two. Maybe I'll have Facebook on another one. Maybe I'll have, BlackBox on the third screen. But for the sake of being expeditious for this webinar, I'm going to have my BlackBox up in the window behind me in the background, and we'll just zip back and forth. We just got an alert on Netflix on BlackBox's main alert log, as you can see. And the really cool thing about BlackBox is not only can I get a live feed of streaming news in real time as it drops, but also what I can do, I mean, I'm sure most of you are part of our family of traders, but in case you're not, all you got to do is click and boom, now I've got news specific to Netflix loading up in the side panel over here. This interchangeable panel is what I like to call the BlackBoxStocks panel of power, because it allows me to do my pre-market scans. It allows me to do my volume ratio information, which will tell me what the volume leaders are to the day relative to the moving averages of their volume. And at the same time, when the market opens up, I've got the alert stream here. This panel over here really is, it could serve to be as good as gold for any of you traders. And when we get the market day started, I'll keep a very close eye on the movers for the day by loading them right into our volatility indicator here. I'm just going to shut these alerts off to make life a little easier so they don't throw me off at all. I can just load whatever ticker I want to look at right here into my volatility indicator panel, and then it makes my life a lot easier if I want to scalp or trade directional momentum by using the volatility indicator. Now, another really important thing that I like to keep an eye on in the first minute of market are these internals right here. I've got the market breadth, which is the symbol is ADSPD. And I like to keep an eye on that because it is the advancers and decliners for the S&P 500, and I can use it as an indicator to determine overall breadth of the market. For me, my AD, I'm just going to call it AD, needs to support the trade that I'm in. The ask price is the, we've gone over that. The ask price on things. I'm sure you all know what the ask price is and the bid price. They're all right here in my side watch list. But on top of my watch list, I've got my ADS-PD, which again is the indicator to determine overall breadth. Then I've got the tick, and the tick really allows me to discern whether we're in the middle of a buy program or a sell program. And again, the 1 second, please.
Sure.
Just give me a second. I'm trying to get something loaded up here. Okay. And I also like to keep, so I've got the tick, the trend, the BTC, which is the price of Bitcoin, because I'm a little bit of a Bitcoin junkie. And I've got the ES and I've got the gold futures pricing right here as well. So these are the market internals that I really like to pay attention to. The market breadth, the tick, which allows me to discern whether we're in the middle of a buy program or a sell program. It really is a good indicator of institutional buying. And then we have the TRIN, and the TRIN allows me to, I want to break this down right. It's the ARMS index. It was developed by Richard Arms, and it's like an oscillator type of indicator that's used to primarily identify short-term or overbought or oversold conditions in the stock market. And again, it does so by comparing advancing versus declining stocks. I generally, if it's too overinflated, that means we might be in for a little correction, to me at least. And if it is closer to like 50 cents, that means that we're probably, right around, we're a little bit oversold, in my opinion. Now back to the tick. The tick, when I say it helps me discern whether we're in the middle of a buy program or a sell program, what I mean by that is the tick shows the number of stocks that are trading on an uptick in that moment. So if the tick is negative, that means that we're in the midst of a pretty decent sell program. I like to look for it to be like negative 600, anywhere from like negative 600 to negative 1,000. And if we're over, I want to say 500 to 1,000, that means we're in the midst of anywhere from a little buy program to a big buy program. And when I'm trading options on the big blue chippers like Amazon or even SPX options, that indicator really is very helpful to me to pick out whether I want to enter or exit a trade. Now we're about 2 minutes out of market being open, and I'm looking at Netflix here. Let's just pull this up. Okay. Now, got my other computers going also. Whoops. NFLX. Okay. So really, something's going on here in the Netflix. So there might be news somewhere else that's affecting it. Now you'll just have to bear with me because I am getting my secondary computer loaded up so that I can be fully ready and prepared for market open. I'll also pay very close attention to the consensus plays. I'll pay very close attention to what everyone else is doing in our trade rooms. We have 2 trade rooms. We have our stock trading room, which is accessible on the BlackBoxStocks website. And we have our options trade room, which can be accessed on Discord, which is really the most secure discussion platform of its kind. And I'll just pay attention to the consensus plays at the same time. Now, as for my indicators, before we get running, what I like to have loaded up, I have my pivots here, and I also have the center of gravity loaded up. And so let me see if I can zoom in on that for you guys. And I'm always willing to share my chart setups with anyone who might want them. So when I notice when the market moves and we have some range, here we go, we're at open now. When the market moves and we have some range, I'll pay attention to this indicator that's being highlighted right now to know if I'm in oversold or overbought territory at the same time as having my MACD here, my volume bars, and my RSI down here on the bottom. So I hear that okay, now I'm going to go over to the options flow. I generally have two screens doing this at once. I'm going to go over to the options flow. The cool thing about the BlackBoxStocks options flow is the new filters that we offer, where you can actually filter out criteria that you want to zoom in on. For example, if you want to focus on above the ask sweeps, we can do that now, and that's just priceless. Kudos to you, DMAC and Charlie, for adding that feature. So let's take a look here. So I'll keep an eye on, what was that?
I'm just watching Netflix, a little pop at the open. Keep going, buddy. Sorry.
So I'm watching, yeah, Netflix having a little pop at the open. And again, BlackBox alerted us to that movement in the pre-market. So I don't like to chase high of day. I just don't. But I'll take a look and see what the options are looking like. This is generally what my option screen will look like when I'm trading during market hours. I'll have my intrinsic value here, my delta. And for those of you that don't know, the delta is what kind of a dollar for dollar movement you can expect in relation to the options contract price versus the stock price. I'll have the theta, which kind of gives me an idea of how much the time factor is priced into an option. Then I'll have this implied volatility number over here. And I'll also sometimes use the Vega, which gives me an idea of how much the volatility is playing a role in the pricing of the option. Now, I pay attention to these percentages here for the implied volatility column. If this percentage in the implied volatility column is higher than this percentage up here in the corner, that means that the option is a little bit overpriced, that you're paying a little bit higher than what you usually would for the option. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be successful in your trade, but it does mean that you may have a little bit of that much of a tougher battle. To the right of that, I've got my net change for the day telling me how much the options have moved so far today. Then I have open interest, which tells me how many contracts were open and outstanding at market open. Of course, there's volume, which I generally don't pay too much attention to because you can't tell how many of those trades were opening transactions and how many were closing transactions. Then we've got the mark, the last, the bid, and the ask. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to try and focus in on Netflix. Now, because Netflix is moving, I'm going to throw Netflix into, I'm going to see that, okay, somebody took this trade about 2 minutes ago. For me, 2 minutes is a little bit too much time. For me, I like to be in a trade within 45 seconds of seeing something pop up on the options flow. Now, let's just trying to also keep an eye on the consensus plays. Now, I've got my Discord platform loaded up on a different computer because I don't want to. I've been in situations where I've tried to do webinars. When I was first learning to do GoToWebinar, I would try to do webinars experimentally with my Thinkorswim and my BlackBoxStocks and my Discord all at the same time, and my computer would just overheat and a big message across the screen would say, "Help me," and it was a mess. So now I try and separate things when I'm doing a webinar, but when I'm not doing a webinar, I usually have the I can have all three of them in one place on each computer. But for the sake of this webinar, so we don't lose our connection, Netflix is still going. Now, I just wanna make a point to be able to demonstrate how awesome our volatility indicator is. To my knowledge, this is a proprietary function that we offer. This in along with some of the information that we provide down here in, again, what I like to call the panel of power. The alert stream is actually reading the level 2s for us and helping us understand what it means in terms of price action. So this tool really can just be priceless. And when it's consistently pitched over to the right like this, I mean, to me, that's indicative of an anticipated rise in price. So I know I said I didn't want to chase at high of day, but it looks like maybe that that probably would have worked out pretty well for me, especially if I would be using the volatility indicator in accordance so that I can be able to gauge where the pullback is going to start. When the pullback starts, this volatility indicator will begin to pitch to the left. Now, I can also, just because I should, in this stream box over here, I like to have the entire market being scanned over at the same time. So let's see. Now, the ES has curved up about 5 points since the market opened. And Amazon is moving in accordance with it. And if you look, I mean, our tick is still pitched below 0. Let's see. And again, well, that's not going to work. You see, I usually, when I want to zoom in on the tick, I will, today, 5 minutes. When I want to zoom in on the tick, I'll generally put it up on one of my other computer screens because this one has a lot of volume. This one has a lot of indicators on it that make it a little bit tough for me to get a good sense of the tick, but I could do it here, I guess, no problem. Now, I also am going to just share with you really briefly my studies that I keep loaded up. I've got, again, my MACD. I've got a 9 SMA. I've got VWAP. I keep these parabolic SAR crossover indicators there. But I honestly, I don't use it much. I don't know why I leave it there. I always have this line in the background here. This yellow line in the background is an SPX comparison line. So no matter what chart is here, the SPX line chart will always be in the background, and the SPX numbers will be posted on the left side. I also use, like I said, the pivot points. I've got a 21 SMA. I've got the 34 EMA and my COG, and that's, pretty much it. That's weird because last night I remember changing them over to EMAs instead of SMAs. I'll switch them out and I'll back and forth them. Yeah, so let's go back to BlackBox. I wish I would have been watching for that pullback because you would have seen the volatility indicator pitch a little bit over to the left for our pullback. So let's take a look. Let's see, maybe hopefully I can get a trade with everybody here. I'm going to look at today's SPX chart. DMAC, do you have any questions that you'd like me to elaborate on?
Let me take a look and see what we got here from the viewers.
Yeah, my thinkorswim panel is like just not working with me. As you can see, it's trying to load stuff up.
So Jesse has got a question. How do you determine if it's a buy or sell program using the tick?
Oh, I did. I think I mentioned that, but I will be happy to elaborate on that again. Um, if the tick is pitched at negative, for example, I like to look at like this negative 420. I mean, that's really kind of minute. But when you see something like negative 600 to negative 1,000, you're in the midst of a strong sell program. And when you see this tick go over between 600 and 1,000, then you're looking at some strength to the buy side. I've got the questions panel pulled up now also, but here we go. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to keep the questions panel pulled up here. Now, I like to do things a little bit differently. When I want to buy something, if I'm buying a stock, I'll right click, I'll go to buy custom, and I'll go to buy with stop, or if I can't babysit the trade, I'll buy with an OCO bracket. And this will actually allow me to pull up an order where I'll fill out my limit that I'm willing to pay for a stock, then where I'll fill out where my target is, and I'll also fill out this level down here, which allows me to enter my stop loss. Please, please, please do not trade without using a stop loss. It is very important, especially if you're newer at this. We want you to learn, we want you to grow, and we want you to have stop losses in play, because a stop loss is a tool that you can employ the use of that will prevent you from ever losing too much money in one trade. And we typically like to recommend, I typically like to recommend a ratio of 1 risk to 3 reward. So for example, it doesn't have to be $1 to $3. I could have a $3 stop loss in, but I want my profit target to be around $8 or $9 a share in this instance. Now, when I want to buy an option, I can do it one of two ways. If it's something that I just want to run and jump right into, I can just pull up a buy ticket by right-clicking over here and buying with, and buying with a stop. But when I'm buying options, I generally, in my experience, if you're newer at this, maybe you shouldn't do this because you're newer at this, but in my experience, I have the discipline where I can just click right on the buy and purchase it and have my stop in my brain. And as soon as, I trade through a certain area where my stop loss is mentally, I'll just go and I'll click on the bid and boom, a sell ticket will pop up for me. Now, if it's not a time sensitive type of deal, okay, all I'll do is very simple. I'll right click and then I'll go to copy. And then I will actually copy the symbol of Netflix. And then I'll go back to my charting section. I'll paste it right here in the side that has a 1-minute chart. Oops. And I will actually load up the chart of the contract. And I'll also have in the window right next door, I'll have the window of the actual stock. So I can get the nice full picture of what's going on. There's a lot of buying on these options that I'm seeing actually. And generally, I mean, we try not to go too far out of the money. We don't want to play risky YOLO plays. For those of you that don't know, YOLO means you only live once, and a YOLO play is a banana-headed play that risks all of your money in one trade in the hopes of hitting the lottery. We work hard for our money. We don't want to be playing those risky YOLOs or playing those riskier stocks unless you have experience doing so. So that's just my 2 cents on things. This is how I like to enter my trades. I do it generally off of the chart panel when I load up the chart of the option. I like to make sure that there's some liquidity and volume in the option that I'm playing so that the range between the bid and the ask price is going to be a lot tighter. Options contracts that have less than 1,000 contracts in average volume, or even 600 to 1,000 contracts in average volume over the last couple of days, they tend to have a much bigger spread between the bid and the ask price. So I like to just make sure that there is some liquidity in the option and that my spreads aren't too thick. Let's go back over to BlackBox. Let's go back over to the options. Let's take a look. Now, another really cool feature that BlackBox began offering is our private Twitter alerts. We haven't had any for the day, and the reason why is because our algorithms are very finely tuned, and you better believe that they've been back tested for thousands of hours, just like all of our alerts on this side. On the NASDAQ side, our algorithmic alerts for the option side have been back tested for thousands of hours to ensure that they're accurate. So when we get one and it identifies a potential trade setup for us, it is something that I like to quickly zoom in on and shoot over to. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see here. I'm actually tinkering around on my other computer, sorry, because I'm trying to see if I can get in a trade for us today. You had something to say? Oh, there we go. Steady bullish flow alert on CNX. So I know that because I have my Twitter configured. I have my Twitter configured to provide me a notification on my phone, just like a text message. So CNX, we had a steady bullish call alert. Now, for those of you that don't know, we offer 5 different types of alerts through our private Twitter feed. We've got our Swift alerts, we've got our steady alerts, we've got our roulette alerts, our large alerts, and our brand new repeater alerts. Our steady alerts will only be triggered if our algorithm detects that our criteria has been satisfied within a 60-minute window. Our Swift alert will only alert if our algorithm detects that our criteria has been satisfied within a 5-minute window. So this steady bullish alert here, I mean, this could be somebody trying to be slyly accumulating their position, but we still are able to pick those trades up. Now, let's take a look here. So it looks to me now on the right over here, I have Heikin-Ashi candles. It's very important to take note of that because with a Heikin-Ashi candle, the body of the Heikin-Ashi candle may currently be at 364.10, but the actual trading of the stock is at 363.29. And we had a high of day of 365.33, but my Heikins can be a little bit misleading in that sense. So if you're not experienced in using Heikin-Ashi candles, just learn how to use them. I like to use them because they help me spot the reversal of a trend. And it looks like we are having a little bit of trouble. We had some trouble with this area. Now it looks like 3 times today. So if this Heikin-Ashi candle starts to flatten out, I know that we're in the midst of a reversal, but it looks like we're going for it again. It looks like we're going to try to go for it again. So that's basically how I use the Heikin-Ashi candles. And let's throw something else in the chart next door. Now on this side, I've got your standard 1 minute, 1 minute candles. There's nothing special about the candles. They're standard, standard candles here. Now, we've got Amazon not really giving us much range to start the day today. Let's take a look. Now, I keep an eye on the consensus plays. I keep an eye on what everyone else is doing at the same time. And I know that we had a play on this yesterday. Ooh, you see, this would have been a great trade at market open, but this actually maybe, let's see if we can get something in there. All right, I'm going to throw Twilio in this window here. Okay, so to me, this thing might still have some juice left to it. On Twilio, I'd like to see us go through a little bit. But at the same time here, I'm noticing in the background, my SPX is kind of pitched in a downward trend. So also, when I pull up the ES or the SPX in one of my windows, I actually have a nice little macro news feed down here. I always keep the news feeds here. I always keep the level 2s here. I always keep the dashboard here because sometimes lately I've noticed on Thinkorswim that the dashboard, these two buttons, are ahead of, excuse me, are ahead of the bid and the ask on the level 2s. I'm just going to bless myself and thank myself.
Bless.
Oh, thank you.
I got you.
Okay, so yeah, I'll keep an eye on what these news tickers have to say. European markets are slipping on more worrying signals from US and China's trade talks. So generally, I mean, if that's the case, it's safe to assume that markets really tend to mirror each other. So if the European markets are feeling the burn, chances are we will kind of feel the burn with them. It really, I mean, it depends on what kind of news is causing them to do it. But like in a market like today, where China and the US have such a strained trading relationship, when China's market falls, our market tends to trickle down with it. Now, another really awesome thing that I love about BlackBox, let's pull up Apple's flow for the day so far. This is a lot of options flow to go through and like try and figure out the big picture of things. What I love about BlackBox is they have integrated a new function into their system that will allow me to instantaneously understand what all of this flow means in general. And that's the heat map down here. And all we do is click on the heat map. We've got all the strike prices running down the center. We've got C0, which is the calls that expire this week, C1, which is the calls that expire next week, and C2, which is the calls that expire in all subsequent weeks. Same thing works on the put side. P0 puts that expire this week, P1 puts that expire next week, and P2 puts that expire in all subsequent weeks. Now, when we see black text, that means that most of these contracts were traded somewhere between the bid and the ask price. But when we see blue text, that means that most of these contracts were traded on or above the ask price. And we see red text, that means that most of these contracts were traded on or below the bid price. And what I can do is I can just take a look at the heat map, and I can pretty much get a nice instantaneous representation on what it all means in terms of flow. Now, as you can see, Apple is kind of ranging sideways for us today. And you can also kind of see when you see this red shading, that's generally indicative of bearish activity, bearish for the stock. And when you see green shading, it's generally indicative of bullish activity. Now, on a day like today, where, let's take a look here, where most of our I like to call them the main blue chippers that I pay attention to anyway, our Amazons, our Alibabas, our Microsofts, having a generally red day. So you would think that the overall activity would be bearish, and so it kind of is, because you're seeing more contracts traded on the put side of things at or above the ask. This is a lot of contracts versus calls being traded. So the heat map really helps you get an instantaneous representation of what all of the options flow means. Now, I know that we don't have many OTC traders, but I used to be a major OTC trader, and I just want to show you, and because I know that we've had one already, I want to show you the power of this bouncer alert on the OTC side of things. I love this alert, and I'll generally pay very close attention to it. It will only be triggered when our algorithm detects that the stock has fallen from a higher price down to a level that our algorithm calculates should be an area that is ripe for a bounce. And if you look, we've kind of been consolidating around this level on this VMSI. I love this bouncer alert. I still like to trade the OTC from time to time. If you do not trade the OTC, what you'll notice is a lot of these prices are below a penny. These prices, these stocks can be very volatile because a lot of them can trade small floats, and accordingly, the smallest amount of volume can cause a pop or a drop in the stock. So yes, the gains can potentially be explosive, but so can the losses. And if you're not used to playing these kinds of stocks, so can the so can the diarrhea that you may experience as a result if you're not used to playing them. So please, unless you're very, very seasoned, try and just gain some experience before you switch over to the OTC side of things. Play small and then gradually size up.
Great
But I
advice.
did want to just point that out about the OTC, that sometimes if you're a black box member, you'll see gainers of over 700% on this side. It's tempting. I know it's tempting, but if you're going to play small and size up, because this can really wipe you out. If you're the OTC is like the wild west. Anything really goes out there. So, but all right, let's go. Now, I'm assuming everybody here knows what all these alerts mean, but you are always able to reach out. If you're not already a part of our family of traders, you can always reach out and ask someone to shoot over the alert legends, the options log key, and the alert log key. I'm sure that we'd be more than happy to send those over to you so that you can get a good idea of what kind of information you'll be provided. I don't think I have to go over the ins and the outs of that, right, DMAC?
Nah. Just keep rolling. Do you ever use the volume ratio scanner when you're looking at
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I shot over that in the pre-market. I'll definitely have that up. And during market hours, of course, I will have this up. Generally, during market hours, I'll either have my alert stream going or I'll have my news stream going. Maybe I'll have both if I have BlackBox on, because I've got another 2 screens. So I'll generally keep a news feed on one of those screens, and my other screen is a 60-inch screen, so I can fit a whole bunch of stuff on that screen if I want
Nice.
to. So yeah, but what I'll generally look for in options flow, the key here is consistency. Yes, we tell you to look for above the ask sweeps, okay, but it's not a recommendation that you buy the first above the ask sweep that comes through. What we're looking for is consistency here. So let's try and take a look. Let's take a look at this, CNX. I want to see the flow for CNX so that maybe we can, let's remove these filters. I want to talk about what I like to look for in terms of when I'm watching this flow. I gotta get rid of this filter that's above the ask only. So here we go. We've got 3 that came through, one right after the other. Boom, boom, boom on this CNX. Now me, I'd like to look for even more consistency if I can get it. If I can get it, I'd like to see some even more consistency here. But we know that all 3 of these are part of an opening transaction. How do we know that? Because open interest was exceeded in one trade, okay, and it was a transaction that was made on or above the asking price. So we're looking for consistency here. And here we got it. We got boom, boom, boom. Not only that, but we saw the options contract price slightly edge up and walk up from that first one. It started at 32 and now they're up to 33. Now again, I like to see a little bit more consistency when I'm looking at my options flow. Let's see what we've got here. Let's see. So Apple will generally tend to give us more transactions than many of the others. So, and what we can actually do is we can sort the strike prices by just clicking on them and zooming in. Let's go back to the alerts and see which one alerted. 621 puts. Hold on. Let's go to all options. So these were 175 puts for June 21st. So let's go over to the options flow and let's go to Apple. That's a pretty aggressive bet, 175 puts. And let's throw Apple into our filter over here. And let's look at our 175 puts. So look, this was some serious consistency. And what I suspect is the alert probably came right around here, right around 650, I'm assuming. Yeah, 655, 175 puts. Now, look at the consistency here. We had boom, 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 boom. This was really good, consistent flow on Apple to the downside. And what you'll notice is it took place right around here. And what happened? What do we notice? Now we've got Apple trickling down. So these puts are, they're ahead of the game. Now they're far out, so and the strike price is pretty far away, but these puts are green. Now you might look at a situation where a lot of puts come through and you may want to play a closer expiration date or a closer strike price. Not in all cases, but you may want to. But what I really want to stress is the consistency. We look for consistency when it comes to options flow. I think you would agree with that, David. Is that right?
Yeah. You want to see consistency. You want to see clear direction. You don't want to be guessing when you're reading the flow. It'll tell you. It'll tell you. Just sometimes you just have to be patient. So, you got to learn. You got to learn to be patient when you're reading the flow. You got to know what you're looking at. But this information is it's incredible. Once you start to know how to read it, it will kind of scream at you at some points. You'll just learn how to spot something that just gives you the clear direction you're looking for. So
here's Twilio. And this right here is typically this is my reversal candle right here, because I see that now we're going red, and we had a nice little battle here, and now we've got a little reversal. And if you notice, we're in the top area of the center of gravity, and we're very oversold. So to me, this would be, this still technically could be a decent put play, to maybe trickle down about $1.50 or so. Really, it would have to be a little. I would like to see a little bit more range on it for me to take the play. But this is how I use my Heiken candles in correlation to my center of gravity indicator. I mean, this to me is just it just screamed overbought when I pulled it up before. So yeah, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a visual demo on how I use the Heikens and how what I like to see in my chart setups. Again, I've got Amazon on one of my other screens, but I want to demonstrate here. Like, to me, we're about to have here we go. We're about to break through. It looks like we're going to break through high of day. And, oh, there we go. Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny to me to see this kind of activity on the big blue chippers, because most of the market internals are still kind of negative.
Yeah.
So it's just I mean, all that really means is that we've got some chop today. I mean, it's pretty choppy out there. The range on the SPX so far from the open is 28.55 up to 28.60. I mean, that is that's not much range. That's not much range. It's not much range. So let me just pull on over. Okay, so I like to keep my eye on the flow. I always like to have the options flow there, and if you are the type of person that wants to find institutional money, they've added a new function, which is just, I love these filters. Kudos to you guys for adding these filters. And now we can actually see like what the big boys are betting on here with trades that are over $500,000 in value in them. And like you see here, pretty decent size, pretty decent sized bets that were made so far today. And what I like to do is at the end of the trading day, I'll kick this filter on just so I can really scan through what the big boys did today. And if I see something, and I'll generally write these things down or I'll log them somewhere, and I'll take note if I see some consistency over the course of a couple of days. Consistency is really the key when you're using when you're trying to make sense of options flow. And at the same time, I mean, I look for the same thing when I'm reading the times and sales. I love reading the times and sales. And if you haven't read it, there's a book. Am I allowed to plug a book here?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
There is a book called What's that?
I said knowledge is power.
Yes. There's a book called Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. It is written by Edwin Lefebvre, but people largely suspect that it is a kind of an autobiography or a biography about the life of Jesse Livermore. And there were three really masters who wrote the books on support and resistance, really the laws of supply and demand of stock. Their names are Jesse Livermore, W.D. Gann, and Richard Wyckoff. And these three guys really are the masters that wrote the books about supply and demand of stock. And they talked about how supply or selling gets very strong when we reach a level of resistance, and buying or demand gets very strong when we reach a level of support. Much of what these three authors discussed in the 1920s is still very valid today. And Reminiscences of a Stock Operator is purported to be the story of Jesse Livermore, and I believe it because when you read the story, it's got to be it's definitely biographical. It's definitely the story of an actual person, but the names I think have been changed. And what I learned through reading that book really is a just priceless method in reading the tape here and trying to make sense of what it all means for future direction of price action and spotting trends on the tape when we reach certain price levels. Now, thankfully, I mean, Jesse Livermore and W.D. Gann didn't have the volatility indicator at BlackBoxStocks. And that volatility indicator to me is is just as good. So knowing how to read the tape in combination with using the volatility indicator, if you like to scalp, it can be an amazing and very helpful tool. Now, I'm going to just zoom on over. Do we have any more questions that anybody, by the way, if you guys have any questions at all today, I'm more than happy if you just shoot them right off with, shoot your questions right off in the questions panel. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'm not really, okay, here we go.
Yeah, we've got a few comments in here, questions, looking through this. Yeah, guys, let us know any questions. You got a moderator and black box educator here that's just a wealth of knowledge. You know, he trades the OTC, trades the NASDAQ, NYSE, and options. So you got somebody who's very diverse and skilled at what they do. So pick his brain.
What is the sell by? I'm assuming that he's talking about this. This is the dashboard. So when I click dashboard, that button goes away. And again, the reason why I use that is because as a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that the dashboard, for example, let's take a look at let's load up this thing. So come on. So piece of garbage. Okay. What I noticed was this dashboard was updating a lot faster than the level 2 was. Thinkorswim was having some issues a couple of weeks ago. So now, just as an insurance policy, I'll make sure that the level 2 is in agreement with the dashboard in terms of bid and ask price. So again, this is the bid price, this is the asking price. And I noticed a couple of weeks ago that on the level 2s, the pricing was kind of lagging behind the dashboard. I was conversing with another member of the BlackBoxStocks family of traders. I was on the phone and I was saying, I want you to tell me in real time what your bid and ask are, because I suspected that my bid and ask were lagging behind. And what I realized in the course of that conversation was that by just selecting the dashboard button and having it up there, it allowed me to really ensure that my level 2s, my bid and asks, were correct. Now, that's really another major, it's just a major part of being a part of the BlackBoxStocks family of traders is that we don't have to trade alone. I mean, look at all these trades being placed here. I mean, a good amount of these trades, I want to say 85 to 90% of these trades are being placed by computers, by machines. And it's just of paramount importance that nobody ever trade alone, especially you beginners that are just starting out there. I want you guys to know that, I mean, part of the beauty of being a part of our family of traders is that we really are like a family here. I mean, this is traders helping traders to improve and get better every day. If you've got questions, I mean, you could fire them off in the main trade room on Discord, and someone will go out of their way to answer them for you. I mean, and I'm not even talking about a moderator. I'm talking about just members of the family of traders that we have. People want to help each other. Everybody, from what I've seen, I haven't seen jealousy. I haven't seen envy. Let me talk about the importance of trading psychology here. I've been in other trade rooms, and I've been in other trade rooms where you've got these types of people that think they know everything, and when somebody else wants to chime in with an idea, they'll shut them down real fast, they'll ridicule them. I have seen that a total of 0 times since I've been a part of the BlackBoxStocks family of traders. It's very refreshing to see people encourage one another. Of course, if there's something, if you're posting a strategy that you want feedback on and somebody wants to help you with some constructive feedback, they'll do it, but they won't do it in a way that'll belittle you or criticize you. Number one, we don't tolerate that kind of thing, but number two, it it just doesn't happen. It's not in the nature of the people that are a part of our family of traders. We're here to help. So by all means, whether it's now during the webinar or whether it's later in the trade room, by any and all means, please ask any questions that you may have. BlackBoxStocks holds regular Q&A every Tuesday and Thursday after market hours in our Discord trade room, just so our staff can sit down and take some time to help you with your more detailed questions. I've seen these Q&As on Tuesday and Thursday run for over an hour and a half, and
Yeah.
it's something that the moderators, mainly Teresa, Maria, and back in the day we had some other moderators here. It's really something that they came up with that wasn't mandated to them. They do this because they want to do this. They do the Q&A because they want to help. Now I hear D-Max. I hear his alerts in the background. But again, I want to stress the importance of never trading alone. And the beauty of being a part of our family of traders is that you never have to trade alone again. You don't want to be trading alone against the computer and an algorithm. They don't have any emotion. All they see is numbers. And when we trade with our emotions. It's okay that we trade with our emotions, but when we do that, we have to expect that we're going to have some losses along the way. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can tell you what the market is going to do. And most importantly, I want everybody here to understand, trading is not a get-rich-quick scheme. I don't care what you saw on YouTube or what that knuckle-headed guru told you. This is not an easy profession, and anybody who tells you that you can get rich by being their follower is just trying to make money off of you. The best way to do this business and ensure that you will grow is to constantly pursue learning more and more from as many different people as you can. And we've got tons of experience from top to bottom within our BlackBoxStocks family of traders. And honestly, everybody, from what I've seen so far, everybody is always happy to help anybody else. When you see somebody post a big gain, you'll see reactions out the yin yang. You'll see people with their thumbs up and with their smiley faces. Everybody is really happy to see others succeed. It really is a very big, familial environment amongst us, and that is just something. And I've been around a while. I've been in tons of trade rooms. I swore off of them for a very long time because of the psychological damage that I saw that it did to traders. Thankfully, the trade rooms that we offer on BlackBoxStocks, everybody's just so positive. Everybody is just so encouraging. And yeah, if somebody needs, some constructive feedback, someone will provide it to them, but they won't do it in a way to diminish their confidence or to knock their psychology into the dirt. Because if you're not confident in what you're doing, then, that's problematic in and of itself. So we're here to help. We're here to bolster your confidence, and we're here to teach. And everybody everybody learns from everybody within our family of traders. I mean, 1 minute you'll have Maria on voice giving us a rundown. Then the next minute you'll have Pistol Pete, who's just like an encyclopedia. Every now and again, if I can add my Jewish 2 cents to a conversation, I will. But it really is just a wonderful atmosphere to be a part of. And I honestly feel very fortunate to be a part of the team.
We love having you, man.
Thank you.
We keep a good community here, and it's growing and growing each and every day. And it's, we instill these values in the way that we run the community and the policy. We want it to be a place for people to be able to come and get answers at any time. There are no dumb questions, and you're never going to learn unless you ask. So we appreciate you and all the patience and knowledge that you have and the information that you give people. And speaking of, we got a question, and I'm going to tee this up for you because it has to do with 100% Fridays, which is one of your favorite things at BlackBox. 100% Fridays, Mr. McDeggins does his challenge. So I'm going to let him touch on that, and then we're going to wrap this up and see if we can find some trades. So go ahead, buddy.
Absolutely. So, okay, the McDeggins challenge. For those of you who don't know, every Friday, I would run a challenge. The challenge has been on hiatus, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. Every Friday, I was running a challenge, and I would look for above the ask sweeps with a notional value of over $25,000 that expired within the same day. This is a Friday challenge because Friday is the day that options expire. And the McDeggins challenge really came about because, and if you want to know the truth, this is really kind of how our roulette alerts were kind of brought about in part by this, because I would look for big opening transactions that expired on that day, because to me it's like, all right, somebody's betting. If I see an above the ask sweep that expires today, someone's making a bet that we're going to get a movement today. So it really started by me just kind of putzing around, and it was a Friday where I was feeling kind of, I felt kind of bored. I was tending to my wife's family up north in California, and I, it just came to me. I was like, I'm gonna follow one of these plays and see how that goes. And I think the first one was I think it was a Facebook. It was back in like July where I came up with the challenge. Might have even been before that. And the way it worked was I would just play these above the ask sweeps, and I started with like $200. I turned the $200 into like $350, and then the next week I turned that into like $600 or $700, and so on and so on and so on. And what happened was I ran this challenge, I think it was July or August, and I stopped the challenge a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to tell you why. The only challenge I ever had a loss on was Apple. Apple just seemed to be the one exception to the rule for me. But it just so happened that Apple was the most frequent ticker that would show me above the ask sweeps on a Friday. And what ended up happening was I had one loss on Apple, and that came in October. It came in October because I remember it was the weekend before my wedding, and people were giving me some guff. I'll go with the word guff. People were giving me guff about trading, 2-3 days before my wedding day. And I didn't care. I mean, I love doing this. I love being a part of the family. I wanted to be here for it. So Apple burned me I had like to me, these are YOLO plays. You have to be willing to lose the entire play if you're going to get into a play like that. So I go very light on the size, and Apple burned me. And then like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I mean, the challenge has been, I ran it every week for like 15 weeks, and I would do 2 or 3 trades in a day, and I would look for above the ask sweeps that expired that day with a value of $25,000 or more. Now, generally, another rule that I had that I never shared with anyone, but I'll share with all of you as long as you promise to keep it a secret. um, Another rule that I had was if the ES was positive for the day, I would play calls. If the ES was negative for the day, I would look for puts to play. So that was the basic premise. So if the ES was positive, I would just filter out the puts and I would look for calls with above the ask sweeps expiring that day with a value of 25,000 or more. I would also then, when I saw it, I would queue up the chart, and if the chart looked like it was set up for me, then I would take the play. Since the McDeggins Challenge's inception, I've had 2 losers. One of them was Apple, and I forget what the most recent one was. But after the most recent one, I decided, you know what, I'm going to retool this thing because, yeah, I mean, granted, I mean, out of, let's say, like 30 or 40 trades, 2 losses definitely isn't bad. But I wanted to, no, not at all. And I mean, and I saved, whenever I did a McDeggins challenge, I always posted my confirmations. I think that's one of the reasons why Maria and some of the other moderators liked it so much, because I would post my confirmations. I mean, you go in some other trade rooms and the people that run the trade rooms, they don't practice what they preach. But me, like if I made a call out, if I shouted something out, number one, I always posted my confirmations. And number two, I wouldn't make no gripe about it. If I had a loss, I took a loss, even if it's not the McDeggins challenge. If I take a loss, I'll take the loss and I'll share my losses with everyone else, as will everyone else within our trade rooms in terms of the moderators or people that call out plays. We own up to every single thing that we do. Thankfully, our win-loss record allows us to remain ahead of the game. But after that last McDeggins challenge that I did, I decided that I was just going to put it on hiatus for a while. But you know, stick around. Maybe this Friday, because last Friday I played a couple to myself. This Friday, I think we might see the return of the McDeggins challenge. So, go ahead.
We got a question, and I would like to see that challenge come back for sure because I think it's fun and I love it. And I just want to this guy, he asked a question quite a few minutes ago. How do you determine which incoming flow will hit that 100%? So, I mean, it's kind of has to do with the McDeggins challenge, 100% Fridays. We love playing it on these days because we really see a lot of interesting activity with the challenge when we have those 100% Fridays, which is pretty often. So
100% Friday we do
what you
100% Friday we do every week. The moderators, you know, they're picking out 100% runners like no one's business. I know the McDeggins challenge. I had 1,000% gain once with Tesla using the McDeggins challenge, and believe it or not, that was back when Tesla was going up instead of trending down the way it is. But I remember
you were looking at the flow to determine that, right?
Absolutely. Now, did I know that I was going to hit 1,000% on that Tesla play? Absolutely not. But honestly, the way I would recommend the viewers to do it, you never know that it's going to hit 100%. You can't, nobody has a crystal ball to know 100% for sure. But what you can do is employ the use of a trailing stop. And by employing the use of a trailing stop, for example, a stop loss, we all know what that is. A trailing stop loss allows your stop loss to automatically be adjusted up as your trade goes green. Now, that Tesla play that I did, I generally don't like to use stops on, I don't like to enter stops when I'm playing options because they can get a little dicey, but I still recommend that beginners do. But I had a mental stop that I was raising in that Tesla play. And in the McDeggins challenge, I have a mental stop in my head that, all right, if the trade is going green, if that trade is going green, then I will raise my stop. And once that stop is hit, I'll get out. McDeggins challenge, it just so happened that day with Tesla, that 1000% runner, my stop wasn't triggered. It just went straight up from the time I followed the flow. I saw some really solid, consistent flow on Tesla. I followed it, and that's how it came about. Now we also got another question asking what indicators did I use on that 1000% Tesla play. Believe it or not, I mean, I was looking at the chart and I saw that Tesla was kind of in oversold territory. And at the same time, that options flow on BlackBox is priceless. I mean, honestly, and I don't want to say this with BlackBox management on the line, so DMAC, cover your ears. Honestly, I have no idea how we have access to such a plethora of information at the price that we do. I mean, there's a tool out there that professionals on Wall Street use, and somebody that I have known from the time I'm 4 years old, and I speak to this guy every week, is a major analyst with one of the foremost firms on Wall Street. And they use a terminal that provides them similar information to what we get on BlackBoxStocks. But their terminal is for really a professional use only, and that terminal costs $27,000 a year. And we have access to this information through the BlackBoxStocks website, I mean, for less than the price of a cup of coffee every day, and to me, that's just awesome. So that options flow is really watching over that options flow and making sure that the chart is prime was how I played that Tesla play. Now, sometimes I'll follow the options flow when a chart is chopping sideways if the flow is big enough. If I see like $100,000 play that expires that day and I know that it's an opening transaction, I'm following it because somebody might know something, or one of the institutions might be getting ready to go on a buying run. So I'll follow that flow to a T. And that is generally the secret to the McDeggins challenge. And I'm the type of person that, because I have said it, so I have said it, and so I shall make it come to pass. So come in, join us this Friday for the return of the McDeggins challenge right here on BlackBoxStocks.
Nice. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up, and we appreciate Mr. McDeggins taking us through his daily routine, what he looks at, how he uses BlackBox, and all the incredible features that we have. I'm pretty excited about this Friday, man. I'm glad you're bringing the challenge back. I'm sure a lot of the members are. So we're gonna go ahead and stop the webinar. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we go, I want you all to know that I have very recently, yesterday, I have uploaded a video to our BlackBoxStocks education channel on YouTube. Search for BlackBoxStocks education on YouTube, and I have done a very detailed, very thorough, very complete walkthrough of the BlackBoxStocks trading system and how you can use it to achieve your financial goals. It is labeled It is the featured video of the channel. As soon as you head over to the channel, you will be able to see it. I'm going to BlackBoxStocks education, and I'm just going to show it to you. As soon as you land on our YouTube page, you will see it load up, and it is the first video right here, how to make money trading using the BlackBoxStocks trading system. It is about an hour long, the last 17 minutes. I do a segment every week called This Week in BlackBoxStocks, where I take a look at some of the alerts and some of the awesome trades that our family of traders has made in the last 7 days. I do that segment every week. So the last 17 minutes of that video is that segment. I highly recommend that you guys head on over to the BlackBoxStocks education channel on YouTube, and please leave some likes, subscribe, leave some comments, and watch that video, how to use the BlackBoxStocks trading system to, how to make money trading using the BlackBoxStocks trading system. I did a brand new update on it yesterday so that I can incorporate all of the awesome new filters and features that we just implemented. And I highly recommend that you watch the video. It will give you a soup to nuts orientation of how to use everything about the system to help you make money, money, money. And before we go, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know I wasn't able to make a live trade with you guys, but I was really more so focused on how you guys can use the system to help you make money in your everyday trading. As always, you can find me in the trade room. You can shoot me a DM. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. McDeggins, and you can shoot me a DM. I will answer your DMs very promptly, and if I can be of assistance to any of you, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's a pleasure being here, and I thank you all again for joining us.
And all the newbies, real quick before he goes. So he is the Black Box educator. Find him in the boot camp as well. Sign up for the boot camp. Take that. Get your basic training so you know what's going on. Take it once, take it twice. Get to know the system and get to know the basics of trading stocks and options. All right, it's very important. So thank you, Mr. McDeggins. We appreciate you, and we're gonna check out some of the latest alerts and see if we can find something to trade.
Oh, I'm
So
sure
we'll
there will
see you
be
in
a
the chat
trade or
room, buddy.
two in the main trade room. I will see you all in the trade room. Thank you again for joining us today. Have a great day and a green day. And again, we'll see you in the trade room.
Thanks, buddy. Stay green, guys.
You want me to end this thing?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right.